Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the 235-member Michigan Marching Band. Band, take the field. Under the direction of Professor Jamie L. Nix, the M Fanfare.
I wasn't going to make you guys listen to it a second time. I just like to let the soundtrack run through one whole time, and I like to do a little slideshow as I get myself mentally ready for this whole thing. So, hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. This is Big Discussions 76 Sports. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe. Please like the stream. As you can see, someone liked this Michigan Undecided t-shirt, so I thought I'd put this back on. I threw a couple things in the suitcase yesterday. As you can see, I'm on location from Western New York in my mother's house, and I'd better, when I finish this up, I better move all of my equipment into the room. I don't think she likes me working on the dining room table, and she cleared out a room for me to do my stuff. But I like working here because it's a nice open space and there's light everywhere. But I will get in trouble if she comes home from her job and sees my computer and all my stuff sprawled out here. You know, guys, when we wrapped up the NBA preseason stream yesterday, I did not intend to do another live stream, but I got some news as I was driving, as I was making the 7 to 8 hour drive from the DMV up here to Western New York, that Don Brown, Dr. Defense, got fired. And that is a very, very interesting development for a number of reasons. And I'm going to talk about that today. I don't intend to go long. I'm still a little tired from the drive. I still feel just a little tired. So I don't intend to go for hours and hours on this. Before I jump in, I want to address a comment that Yakov22 said. He said, "Happy Festivus," and that's a reference to the live stream I did a week or so ago after the Wolverines canceled the Ohio State game. So we had some fun with that. And you know, most sports channels make references to pop culture. And you know, this, I've said before, this is a Jerry Seinfeld house, and I thought that a lot of people had grievances to air in terms of the program canceling that game and how the program has fared this season. So that's what that refers to. He also says, P.S. that high school discussion last week was outstanding. Yeah, I appreciate that. I realize most of my subscribers are Michigan football people, but as I've described, I want to do some other things with the channel. I'm finishing up a book project, and athletics was my first. Well, beyond the values that I learned here at home, athletics helped form who I have become, who I went on to become, in terms of getting my doctorate, in terms of my values, in terms of how I see the world. And that was on my high school basketball team, Hutch Tech High School here in Buffalo. And I described that at the beginning of that live stream a little bit. And the LaSalle basketball program is a part of that story. So, you know, here we talk about the University of Michigan, we talk about pro sports, but a lot of us got our first lessons in life from interscholastic athletics. And not everyone goes on to play at the University of Michigan or in the NFL, the NBA, or the MLB, but there's a lot that those early sports experiences teach us in terms of going on to become adults and going on to become productive members of society. So that's what that book project is about. And gradually, you guys are going to see more content here rolling out on that whole experience. But let's get back to Michigan football. What's going on, Alex? Appreciate you being here. I'm sure you have some things to say. We'll get you in here. Again, I don't intend to go very long today, but I'm going to start us off with a tweet from one John U. Bacon. I actually put this on a still shot, but I realized with StreamYard, I could just go to the internet and show you a URL, a live URL. So John U. Bacon, and for those of you who don't know, John U. Bacon is the official, I call him the official historian of Michigan football. He's written several books. He is from Ann Arbor, and he, I believe, holds a professorship position there at the university. I've met John several times. He's come to Washington, D.C. to present his books. And I think he knows me by face, and he follows me on Twitter. And so he knows when I get into his mentions, he knows who I am. So he tweeted this as I saw this as I was driving back to Buffalo last night. And it says, after weeks of watching the Michigan football coaching question unfold, I can say with great confidence, I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen and don't know anyone who does. And I wrote under that, well, if John U. Bacon don't know, then nobody knows. And he says, if only my friend. So, and that says something. If John U. Bacon doesn't know, he's usually the insider. So if he doesn't know what's happening with the program, then who knows? In yesterday's live stream, I said that we're on a Harbaugh watch, and we're looking to see what's going to happen out there in Ann Arbor. And I think that the majority of us, based upon how things have unfolded, and for me, hearing that the contract that they've offered Jimmy has a lot of incentives in it, I would have thought that that would have been a symbol and a sign for him to say, you know what, I'm not coming back. Maybe it's time for me to go. Because usually, in my experience, looking at major college sports and pro sports, incentive-laden contracts are usually means you have something to prove, and Jim does have something to prove, but those usually aren't a good thing. Coaches and players typically want guaranteed contracts, and for someone of Jim's pedigree, we'll say pedigree in this instance, but that it's often seen as a slap in the face to take a contract with incentives in it, because it means that you're not going to get all of your money. You're an unproven commodity and you have something to prove. So I would have thought that would have been an indicator that he was leaving. But with the news yesterday that Don has gotten fired, that suggests that Jimmy's in this for the long haul, and he's going to hang on and try to right the ship for a few more years. I think the contract they offered him, from what I've heard, it's about 3 years. So that's very, very surprising. And it's also very, very telling in a way. And that suggests that he's going to hang on for a little while longer, while many of us have been predicting that he would go back to the NFL, and while many people have been calling for his head in Ann Arbor. Very, very interesting. I'm going to read the article. I actually put two underneath this live stream. I'm going to read one. The Free Press article is pretty short, and then I'm going to walk through some pictures and talk about what I thought about Don Brown's tenure in Ann Arbor. And then Alex will probably want to come up and say something, and we'll probably rock out for about an hour because I'm kind of in vacation mode here, and I didn't expect to do a stream. But how can you not do a stream on this? This is huge. So I'm going to go to the Free Press article. Give me a second. I'm going to read that. It's here. Close that subscription thing that pops up. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. You all should be able to see that. If you want to read it yourself, this is in the description box below, but it's a short piece. Don't know who that gentleman is. This is dated yesterday, published at 4:27 p.m. Oh, look at Jimmy. He looks tired. He looks aged. In the background I used for this, that background picture of here. Give me a second. I'm going to pull it up so we can, because I think this is very, very telling as to Jim's stay in Ann Arbor and the physical toll it's taken on him and how he's aged since he got here. So that's Jim now. And this is Jim when Don Brown first came. Look at that. Look how young Jim looks in that picture. He doesn't look disheveled. He doesn't look wrinkled. He looks young, youthful, and spry. Don does to a degree as well, but Jim in this picture definitely looks young, youthful, and spry. And now old Khaki Pants looks pretty aged and tired, which makes sense based upon what's happened. But anyway, the article. I don't want to stretch this out too long. Michigan football is moving on from Don Brown. The Wolverines have fired defensive coordinator. The Wolverines have fired their defensive coordinator after 5 seasons in Ann Arbor. He definitely wants to coach some more. Brown agent Gary O'Hagan said, I think there will be some teams interested in him. So that suggests that Don didn't say, okay, Jim, I've had enough. I'm ready to go. Don, according to this, still wanted to coach. The question is, did he still want to coach in Ann Arbor? So a lot of things, what's interesting about these things is more comes out, the more we get past these things, stories come out and stories leak out. And I hope John U. Bacon is working on his next book, because this is all book worthy. The Wolverines finished 2-4 this season, and the defense was a big reason behind the losing record. U of M allowed 34.5 points and 434 yards per game, a major step back for a unit that finished in the NCAA's top 12 in total defense during Brown's previous 4 seasons. And there are some other links in this article to other content written on the season and this whole swirl of events. Brown was hired from Boston College after the 2015 season and immediately made an impact. So he replaced DJ Durkin, who went over to Maryland before having his little issues over there. Actually, not little issues, but big issues. Michigan's 2016 defense was historically elite, allowing just 14.1 points, which was number 2 nationally, and 261.8 yards per game, tied for fewest in the nation. I'm going to talk about that when I finish this. The 2017 defense was similarly elite, allowing the 3rd fewest yards per game in the nation and just 18.8 points per game. So let's see, 14.1 points to 18.8 points. So that season, the problem was the offense was rebuilding. There was instability at quarterback. Donovan Peoples-Jones, for example, was a freshman. So there was a lot of instability on offense, but the defense played for the team that season. And I'm going to talk about why I think that was. But as stingy as Michigan's defense was under Brown, his first 2 years in Ann Arbor, it will likely be remembered for its struggles against Ohio State the past 2 seasons. That's why I showed that Dwayne Haskins picture during my opening montage. The Wolverines traveled to Columbus in 2018 with the nation's top-ranked defense at the time and legitimate playoff hopes. That was the unfortunate revenge tour team. I'm going to close this window here because it's distracting me. And promptly allowed 62 points and 567 yards. And in 2019, Michigan gave up 56 points and 577 yards in another blowout loss to the Buckeyes. Okay. Once again, the Ohio State game was a huge negative for us, Brown said on May 21st. So I'm not going to live in that world. And I don't want the players to live in that world. We acknowledged it. We acknowledge it. We move on from it. And hopefully I do a better job because I don't blame players for anything. Okay. You blame the old guy right here. Okay. I like that. Hold on a second. That's my mom's phone ringing. Let me I don't have a landline back at my place in Northern Virginia. Anyway, so I like this. He a good coach, I think, takes the blame and doesn't blame his players per se. So I like that. I like that about Don. I got to do a better job getting our guys ready, and I promise you I'm going to do it. I didn't mean to get like heavy here. According to a database compiled by USA Today Sports, Brown was the 8th highest paid assistant coach, earning $1.7 million, $1.1 million in base salary, and $600,000 from a retention bonus that was earned April 1st. He was the highest paid assistant coach in the Big Ten. Oh boy, I know that's going to get some folks a little stirred up. Earning $1.7 million. Close that. I had it open in my my own YouTube. So I'm going to stop that screen share. I have some comment. Oh, yep, the Lord of the Rings is here. That's a nickname for Abdul Gaines, based upon his enthusiasm about the Lakers getting their 17th championship yesterday in their rings. I'm going to go through some of the comments here as these come in. Gaddis gone confirmed. I don't know. There have been rumors circulating. Mixed feelings about Don Brown. Polo Pony said, Polo Pony, I've never seen you here before, but thank you for tuning in. If you're new, please subscribe. Everyone, please like. The Lord of the Rings. I'm busy. I'm busy in meetings today, but I had to stop through for a quick sec. It is good that Brown finally got fired. Why Harbaugh is still employed, I have no idea. Jim H is a total fraud. What more do you need to see? No offense equals no defense. That's a very good point, and I'm going to get to that. I believe in capitalism and pursuing one's worth. That said, under current circumstances, Jim supposedly being insulted about only earning $4 to $5 million a year is not the best look. And then Michigan, Wolf 58, what's going on, says Michigan can rearrange deck chairs and assistant coaches all day long, still sailing on the Titanic if Harbaugh is still the head coach. Okay, so I have some talking points here. And if Alex wants to come in and say a few words, I'm sure he will if he doesn't have his work commitments. And then we can wrap up because I don't want to go for a whole 2 hours today. But when I was thinking about this whole thing and getting ready for this, the article said that he had a pretty stingy defense the first 2 seasons. And when I thought about that, you say, okay, well, why would he have that stingy defense and what was so good? So Don played his Viper. He liked to blitz, and he liked leaving his defensive backs out on islands, which we saw most notably, this year. It was pretty bad this year because there was a lack of depth at that position and the players were young. But his first 2 years, just like on offense, Don was coaching a lot of Brady Hoke's players like Chris Wormley and Ryan Glasgow and Mike McCray. I'm just running these off my head. And Channing Stribling and Jordan Lewis and Maurice Hurst. All of those players were Brady Hoke and Greg Madison players. They were veterans. They had been in the fire for a while. And judging upon the tackling, Alex has been pretty big on the tackling and the lack of technique and fundamentals, at least the last 2 years. Those Brady Hoke, Greg Madison players apparently were well-trained in terms of fundamentals. So those players could tackle. So those are the players that Don was coaching in 2016 and 2017. And so that 2016, 17, 18 season, that was the major shift from all of Brady Hoke's players going out and then all of Jim's players, the majority of Jim and Don's players coming in. And they did get good production out of those players in the Revenge Tour season. But yeah, I think I watched the highlights from that Revenge Tour game down at the Snake Pit a couple of weeks ago. And in my opinion, they mis-schemed for that game. And if you watch that tape, Dwayne Haskins, Herb, and Ryan Day, they put together a very good game plan, and they were absolutely punishing Brandon Watson in that game. And Brandon Watson had his hands full trying to cover players like Chris Olave out there on the edges, and he was not I'm not beating up the kid, but either he didn't have the speed or those kids were just that good. Ohio State put up 60 points that game. And then the next year, the Justin Fields offense put up another 50 points. But I think when we look back at Don and Don's teams and his defenses, keep in mind that a glaring hole in these Michigan football teams has been the offenses and the lack of quarterback development and the lack of a signature quarterback back there. And so in Don's defense, no pun intended, his defenses during his time have had to do a lot more than what they should have had to have done. Now, I did show a picture of one of my favorite Michigan defenders. I'm saying that jokingly, Khalid Hudson. And this is not to beat up on Khalid Hudson, but over the last 2 years, we've seen a number of penalties from some of the Michigan football players, particularly on the defensive side, and in some instances, the special teams. Unforced errors, mental meltdowns, just brain freezes that have cost the team in key situations. So early on, I'm going to show the JT Barrett first down. I know it's painful for all of us to watch this, but keep in mind that early on in Don's tenure, most of those defensive players he was coaching, those weren't players he recruited. Those were veteran players from Brady Hoke's recruiting trail and Greg Madison's recruiting trail. Those were veteran players. Those were trained up players. And I think that has a lot to do with how stingy and how stout that 2016 and 2017 defense was. The 2016 defense, it was not infallible. It was not invincible. There were times when you could see it get gashed. I'm thinking about the Michigan State game. Michigan State, even though we did beat the Spartans handily that season, they were able to get some big plays off against Don's defense that year, but he had nice veteran players that were recruited and trained up under Brady Hoke's staff. So, and also keep in mind after the Revenge Tour game in 2018, that's when Madison left. So I imagine that a lot of the fundamentals and the training probably went out the door with Greg Madison as well, who went down to Columbus. So I'm going to read some of the comments here. Do I have any more pictures that I want to show? And Abdul Gaines, who's gone over to the Ohio State side, I'm going to show his favorite Michigan Jim Harbaugh recruit right here, Rashawn Gary. And I'm not beating this kid up, just like I'm not beating up Khalid Hudson. But keep in mind, Rashawn Gary was the #1 recruit in 2016, and it was a big deal when Rashawn Gary signed with Michigan. 6'5", 250, 270 pounds. He was a big, talented, athletic kid with a lot of upside. But did Rashawn Gary have a signature game when he wore one of our winged helmets. I remember a specific play in the 2017 game where he had JT Barrett in his arms, but he let JT Barrett run away. And right now, according to Abdul Gaines, JT Rashawn Gary is a third stringer, a second or a third stringer on the Green Bay Packers. So this was the number one high school recruit. He's having a good time in this picture. I love this picture. He's taking a selfie with the fans, but in the student section. But why did this kid not turn into more during his time in Ann Arbor? I'm going to read some of the comments here, and then I'll drop the link in right now. Alex, if you're still out there, you can come up and let us know what you think about this turn of events. Again, we're not going to go out to the 2-hour mark today. I appreciate everyone being here. I hope everyone is out there staying safe as you're doing your last minute Christmas shopping if you celebrate Christmas. So let's see. The last comment was, the link is right there in the chat. There have been rumors circulating. Okay, Abdul Gaines is busy in a meeting. Alex is here. What's going on, Alex? Let me get through these, and then I'll pass the mic over to you. Okay, that's the capitalism. That's the Titanic reference. Ready when you are. Austin says, Lovie Smith or Derek Mason for defensive coordinator. What do you think? Hold on. Like your videos, but way too many Walmart Wolverines talking out of their ass. Hey, it's a Force channel, so there's going to be some smack talk. Sorry, truth hurts. Harbs is a good man. Some would argue with that. Hands are somewhat tied by school's president. Interesting. Okay. So Schlissel has done something up on the Hill to handcuff Harbaugh. Let's get a defense. Yes, the offenses were average at best at the time. Quarterback play was mid-major caliber. And that's my link. And the big thing, corners got exposed. Jamon Green and Vincent Gray were out there hanging on for dear life every series. So anyway, Alex, what's going on? What say you?
What say you, my brother? I'm glad you made it very safely.
Thank you.
York. Man, a lot of comments today. A lot of interesting opinions. I think Don Brown in general. I think there's a theme that's going on, and the more news comes out, there's just something that's really common, and it's the fact that I'm starting to form an opinion that these gentlemen, being Jim Harbaugh and Don Brown, I believe they are quick fixes to programs, but they are not long-term solutions to programs. Meaning that, that 16 team was probably, when they played Ohio State, I believe they probably were the better team that day. They didn't win the game. Sometimes the better team doesn't necessarily win the game. And I think the defenses were pretty tough, but it seems to be that they don't know how to recruit and they don't know how to develop. And what I mean by that is, although they've had top 10 classes, that the handcuff comment, and people saying, oh, well, it's easy because Michigan's such a hard school to get into. When you have top 10 classes every single year, you should be by theory, you should at least be in the top 10 every year. And they're not doing that. Not as of late. So, I definitely think the revenge tour team, I think that definitely broke the will. Including, I just think the fact that they don't know how to recruit players that are suited for their program. Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, they recruit players that fit their culture and fit their program. And to be honest with you, I don't know what Michigan's culture is. I don't know what they're about as a program. I have no idea. I mean, even since Jim Harbaugh has got there, he's done some antics. He's done some really quirky things, but as a program, I don't know who they are. I don't know what their staple is. And I believe that's a problem when you don't have an identity as a program. What direction are you going in? Like, I'm curious what the pitch to recruits are. I'm very curious, because I don't see, from what they've done in the last 4 years, I don't see a reason, unless you're a fringe mid-major kid, why you would want to go there, unless you're going there strictly, for academic reasons. But there are other institutions that offer that as well, not just necessarily Michigan. And then there are just kids that, you might have some legacy kids here and there, and then there are just kids that just say, I want to go to Michigan no matter what. But, I mean, you even saw it the last week that they lost out on some kids that were really interested in the program. And, just seeing the it's just an unstable situation there right now. And one thing that's kind of bothering me, I know we said this offline that, I think that because of Don Brown getting let go, that means Jim is going to stay. If that's not the case and he's waiting out for the NFL to see what opportunities he has there, that says a lot about his character. That says a lot.
Yo, that would be insane.
Because if he's doing that, I rarely ever call a person trash, but that's a very trash move if he's doing that. If he's going to try to leverage, his career his collegiate career going forward versus what he's going to do in the NFL and what opportunities are best for him. Now I'm not knocking that. I just think that the timing of everything is really questionable. Because, kids are making decisions based upon what you're saying. And if you're doing something else, what does that necessarily say about you? As a person, as a coach, as a leader, what does that say about you? Like, it's very hard for you to do that. And I'm not saying that this is obviously hypothetical, but it's hard to be a leader when your actions say otherwise, when you're leading in that way. I would say if that's what's going on, I can guarantee you he'll never coach in college again. That will never happen.
Okay. I want to ask Jeff K, if you're still out there, can you elaborate on what you mean by his hands are somewhat tied by the school president? Just for clarity,
yeah,
so we all understand.
I mean, I'll put it like this: it's definitely not recruiting, and because they're getting top 10 classes every year. I mean, Wisconsin and Penn State, are typically behind them in the recruiting, but those programs typically have been better than Michigan the past couple of years. And then you have some newcomers that are coming about. So I think the problem is bigger than Don Brown. I just think it's bigger than that.
Well, my opinion is, I think his defenses have had to do more than reasonably they should have had to have done. And if Jim had that offense rolling more than it had been, it looks at least a little bit different.
So I'm going to push back on you a little bit.
Okay.
In regards to that. So I will say, in regards to Ohio State, yes.
Yeah.
In regards to the rest of the conference, no. Because they had top 5 defenses going into the game the last couple of years. So they might not be at a tier where Ohio State is, but they could at one point in time say, hey, we are the second best team in the Big Ten outside of the last 2 years. That they definitely could, at least defensively wise, they could say that. I mean, offensively, I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, but those defenses dominated. I mean, the stats were there. Those defenses dominated until they got to the game.
We came scarily close to losing the Army game last season. And I know Herb did come to our defense and say it takes a little while for a new offense to click with a new coordinator, but we came scarily close to losing that Army game. So, and
But Army was very good that year too. Army was good that year.
okay.
So, but again, like I think it goes back to I definitely understand your comment. I think it's a little bit more. I think it's more complicated than that. I definitely understand from a scoring standpoint, they've had some challenges. They don't necessarily have the playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You guys have had revolving doors of quarterbacks coming in and out. But back to my original point, I don't think it matters what players you're playing with. If you can't coach and develop guys that you're bringing in there, none of that matters. You could be bringing top 10 classes in every year. And if you're not coaching these guys up and developing them, which I find it interesting when you had Brady Hoke's players, those guys were sophomores, juniors, and seniors that you're coaching up. Now you're bringing in your own players who are freshmen, and you're having to start to build them basically from the ground up, for them to fit into what you're trying to do. And it seems that they're not able to do that. And that's not a Don Brown problem. That is a complete program problem. So I understand that, like, the contract that they offered him was saying, hey, if you want to stay, you're going to have to produce. We're not just going to give you money because your track record is different now. Like the base that you're coming off of when, you had a couple Super Bowl appearances, and, you were shown to be kind of an innovative guy, so to speak. Those days are gone. Like your resume has changed. So the contract they are offering him is based upon his latest performance as a coach, which I think is fair. I think it's 100% fair. And I said before, I think they'll do the classy thing. I think they'll eventually separate, which is probably why there hasn't been a lot of details that have come out about the contract yet. But I think a separation is. I feel like that's what's better for all parties at this point.
Okay, give me a second here. I saw a comment under one of my pre-records. I thought, okay, this is the one. I'll share this. What does Walmart Wolverine mean? Let me. Someone answered this.
Good question. I have no idea what that means.
I want to skip over Alexander Espinosa. Guys who think they are true blue but never stepped a foot on the campus and went to the school. Well, I mean, there are a lot of, in that case, every fan base has Walmart fans.
Yeah, okay. I mean, just because you don't go to the University of Michigan doesn't mean you can't root for them. Just like if you didn't go to Alabama, you can't root for the Tide or Texas or whoever. Like, there are people that are from Northeast Ohio that never went to Ohio State that love Ohio State football. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I see we have some new people coming in. If you're unsubscribed, please subscribe. That's free. I'm at 860 and trying to get to 1,000. Alexander Espinosa says Harbaugh is the head coach. He is ultimately responsible for the entire team and game planning. Don't blame it on the coordinators only. Yeah,
correct. He's the CEO.
Yo,
he's the CEO of the program. Absolutely. These things are happening on his watch. So, he has to be held accountable for the product that has that we're seeing on the field. 100%. Don Brown included. So, I don't know if Don Brown is a good recruiter per se. I look back and, at those Boston College teams, defenses were pretty solid, but I didn't see a whole lot of NFL talent there, but they were pretty solid defenses. But when you're going from Boston College to Michigan, obviously it's a step up, and they're paying you a certain amount for a certain product, and if you're not doing that, then just got to get rid of you, and that's just what's going on right now. But I just think I think they should clean house, 100%. I think I feel like Jim Harbaugh at this particular point has no choice but to stay.
Wow.
I don't think he has any other choice, because the damage that it would do to the program if he left at this point, right now, would be, the longer he waits, the worse it is for guys in the class, for for the 2021 kids who are still out there that are uncommitted, for the 2021 commits that did commit, already, that already signed a letter of intent last week, and even for the 2022 guys that might be soft commits or hard commits. So, the longer that he drags this on, or that him and the university are dragging this on, the worse it's going to get for everybody. So
Okay.
one way or another, something needs to happen.
I want to thank Justin Buckeye Firm for subscribing. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
I want to read this comment under one of my pre-records. This is under my Alex. By the way, you created the idea for this video. Michigan football's Jim Harbaugh is not Bo Schembechler.
He's not.
So I want to thank you for that. This is from Pulsatier. Pulsatier, 3 days ago. I think he's a new sub as well. Jim didn't develop talent in players or coaches. When Urban Meyer stepped down at OSU, Ryan Day took over seamlessly. When Day went down with COVID-19, the associate head coach, Larry Johnson, took over seamlessly. Despite several other junior coaches having been lost, that is a culture of leadership. That defines the team. Who could have taken the I don't see Reed Moore, so he must be saying who would have taken the reins if Jim had gone down.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good point.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. It happened in Alabama as well. Nick Saban came down with COVID, unfortunately, and his assistant coaches stepped up, and I believe they won. Obviously they won a game without Saban being on the sideline. So, there's leadership is something that I don't think can be taught. It's just something that you do, something that you are. And again, I go back to my comment originally. I don't know what Michigan's culture is. I understand Jim's a quirky guy. He likes to do all these things, like take teams overseas and all that stuff. That's cool. But as a program, what are you? I don't know what Michigan is. I know, for instance, I know what Wisconsin is. I know what Nebraska is. I even know what Minnesota is. And we're just talking about teams that are in the Big Ten. I know what Indiana is. I know what Ohio State is. I know what Penn State is. I have no idea what Michigan is. As a program, I have no idea what they are.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that a lot of that, the quirkiness and a lot of the eccentric behavior, hasn't a lot of that died down?
Oh yeah, but it only gets you so far.
Yeah,
it only gets you so far. It's kind of like a relationship where, some things are cute in the beginning of a relationship, but it gets old after a while. And
yeah.
You can't do the quirky stuff. It gets old. Having sleepovers at recruits' house. Obviously it's COVID, so you can't do that. But just some of the things, it doesn't work for every recruit that you have. And I just think there's just not. Even now, I just think I think 2020 is just one of those odd years. But what's the pitch? I'm curious. I really want to know what the pitch is if you're Jim Harbaugh for you to come to Michigan. What's the pitch? Because you haven't won a Big Ten title. You haven't beaten Ohio State. You're 3-3 against Michigan State. You're 1-16 or something like that against top 10 teams. What's the pitch? I'm curious what the pitch is. For you to have a top 10 class, I want to know what the pitch is. The pitch is good. I'm sure it's good because you have a top 10 class, but you're not developing anybody at all. That's a problem. And I'm sure players, obviously, a former player, you're a former player, we all believe in our own abilities, but if we don't have the coaches there to guide us and develop us, we're only going to get so far off of our own ability. So that's a very interesting. That's just very interesting to me in regards to recruiting.
Yeah. Polo Pony says, good point on the quick fix opinion. John Stoops says, you got to remember these are Jimmy's recruits. This is why he was paid top dollars. No excuses at this point.
Agreed.
Alexander Espinosa says, Alex is spot on. Player development is a huge issue under Harbaugh's regime. No arguments there. Austin Sargent says, hard to develop talent when your assistants you had success with leave Michigan for promotions every season.
That happens everywhere.
I know you're going to push back on that.
That happens everywhere. Stop it. It happens everywhere. Everywhere. Do you realize that half of Ohio State's assistant coaches are at either a head coach at Boston College, 2 of them are at Oklahoma, and then like 4 of them are at Texas. I don't want to hear that. That happens to every good school. It happens to every school. Everybody's going to take opportunities elsewhere to better their resume and better their career in college football. And that happens in probably every industry across this country. So yeah. I don't even want to. That's a terrible argument. That's a terrible argument. That's a cop-out.
That should probably be understood because all the assistants eventually want to become head coaches themselves. And the better your program does, other schools are going to come approaching your assistants. So that should be in your mentality already if you're the head coach of a successful program.
Yeah. I mean, perfect example, Josh Gaddis left Alabama and came to Michigan. Did Alabama lose a step? No, they got better. Like, you go out and you hire somebody that's equally better or better for that position. So, no, I don't agree with that at all.
John Stoops says the pitch has been, we will take you overseas and it will be fun. Yeah, football is tough. If it's fun, you're not playing hard-nosed football. Yep, I didn't believe in the overseas trip thing unless they won the national title or the Big Ten. The pitch to recruits, come to Michigan, get a Michigan degree that is known worldwide. That will open doors for future success. I believe players are only trying for a 2 to 4 year contract and to be set.
What do you mean? I'm curious what he means by 2 to 4.
I think he's talking about playing for NFL draft position as opposed to playing for the national title. You know, they come in, I'll be here for 2 to 3 years and I'll get to go pro. I think that's what he's saying.
Have you seen the players that are getting drafted from Michigan the last couple of years? We're talking about day 3 and day 4 picks, not day 1, day 2, and day. We're like, no, that's no. Those like outside of Cesar Ruiz or whatever the center's name is, who got drafted in the first round, and Rashawn Gary, who just got drafted in the first round off of talent. He's riding the bench right now. You don't go to Michigan. It's not a pipeline to the NFL at all. Like, you know, like you guys are getting drafted 4, 5, 6, and 7 rounds, like in those rounds, not 1, 2, 3. So I'm not feeling that.
Jeff K. Actually, I didn't read this one. Terry Ann says a Michigan team with no real commitment to a running game is doomed to fail. Fundamentally unsound.
Well, that's football in general. I mean, you know, we're not. I mean, obviously, teams want to be balanced, and I believe they try to be balanced, but the programs are going to a spread offenses all over the country. Very rarely are we seeing teams that are really committing to the run. I mean, it's great if you can do that, but you know, those aren't the offenses that are being ran right now.
Jeff K says presidents want to raise academic standards higher than Stanford. Heck, Larry Foote said it best years ago.
That's cool, but Stanford even gets players. So Like none of this matters. It doesn't matter because the guys that you're bringing in, you're not developing. That's the problem. You can raise them, fine. So you go from like 10 to 15. If you're not developing the guys that are in there, none of this matters. None of it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Cove22 says U of M president reportedly said potential U of M athletes must have taken and gotten presumably a C or better biology, chemistry, algebra 1, 2, geometry, 2 to 3 years of foreign language, and through senior English to earn a scholarship.
Okay. But again, so them raising their standards, I don't think is ever an issue because I don't think athletes are stupid. I just don't. Football's a hard game to play. Anybody who's played football knows at a collegiate level or any sport at a collegiate level, it's very difficult. You have to be a very intelligent individual to play a team sport at the collegiate level. And I just don't think kids are dumb. They might not be, rocket scientists, but you can raise the standards all day long, but kids are going to go to school, and I just don't. That's fine. You can raise the standards. I don't think it's going to change anything.
Alexander Espinoza says, it is okay to lose games, but it is how Harbaugh loses games. It seems to always be in embarrassing fashion. They always seem outcoached, out-schemed, and outmanned in those games. Definitely the 2018 revenge tour game.
Mr. Espinoza, I want to say something. The fact that you just said it's okay to lose games, no, it's not.
I totally missed that.
No, it's not. It's not okay to lose games. That's the problem. It's not okay to lose games, ever. Like, you strive to win every game. You basically, and to quote Nick Saban, I mean, everybody knows this, he hates losing more than he likes winning. He hates losing more than he likes winning. Losing is not okay. Not like, no, it's not okay. It's never okay.
Jeff
Like,
Case,
I'm still pissed from when Clemson beat Ohio State 31-0, and that was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but I'm still upset about that.
Jeff K says, do you want nice boys to go to a fight with or some thugs? I will take thugs every day over Biff and Steve. Yeah, I think in your locker room you need some tough guys. I don't, in the Michigan program, I can't think of any tough guys who've been in there. John Stoop says, yes, push back. Anybody who wants to throw on Michigan can. That is because the defense is weak unless we play smaller schools. I think this is about you. Is this dude an OSU fan or U of M? So, Holy Reaver 97. Alex is from the Ohio State fan base, but he's welcome here. I think he's been a fine addition to this broadcast since I started it. And the goal is to make this a place where all the fan bases can come as long as they come and play nice. And I think Alex adds really, really good commentary and analysis. And he knows things that I don't know. So I think he adds something.
And I might be an Ohio State fan. Absolutely. But football is football. And regardless of whatever team I'm a fan of, that does not change my opinion on what I see on the field at all. And sometimes I don't like to talk Ohio State, but sometimes in comparisons, when we're having discussions, they do come up, but I also bring up other teams in the Big Ten as well, because that's the conference that we play in.
And how could you not compare it to Ohio State? I mean, you guys are you guys own the conference now. So John Stoop says Penn State, Michigan State, and Rutgers all had record days passing. Man, and blitzing defense didn't work.
But and I think the kids that you brought in, they might not necessarily run whatever scheme Don was trying to do that maybe worked in 16 or 17 or 18. You have to coach up to your players' strengths. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe they didn't do a very good job of that. I think the best player on that defense is Daxton Hill, the kid from Tulsa. And he hasn't had a safety coach all season, which to this day still blows my brain. Like, he has had a safeties coach all year. I mean, what's going on up there? I mean, I'm flabbergasted at that. And the kid flashes. I mean, he's really good. He's really good. And I think he's a sophomore. He's really good. And I mean, I've even heard he's thinking about transferring because, the kids are getting free waivers. So, a lot of players are sitting back waiting to see what's going to happen. And I think he's one of the ones that is on that list that, is considering leaving. And you lose a player like that. I mean, what does that say about your program? The guy hasn't had a safeties coach all season, and he's balling out.
Terry Ann says Michigan fields plenty of talent. They lack fundamentals, poor blocking, and poor tackling.
Agree, Terry.
Vic Rackham says, as a current freshman at Michigan, I have never heard the term Walmart Wolverine. Well, hang around just a little bit longer. You'll hear it more. Thanks for explaining, Jeff. A lot of Alex's here today. Got to be hard to focus on your fundamentals when you can't stop pissing your pants worrying about OSU. Okay, we got some Buckeye smack there. Telly Mugambi. You can have a top 10 recruiting. You can have top 10 recruiting classes, but not recruit to fit. And that is why these recruits are what they are.
I 100% agree. That's a very, very big thing. 100%. I 100% agree with that.
What do you think about the U of M recruiting to its needs? That should be a no-brainer.
I mean, that's every school. You recruit to your needs.
I personally feel. Oh, John Stoops says, I personally feel they should pursue Bob Stoops.
Is that because he's your cousin, John? Tell the truth. Tell the truth, John. A little insider information that we don't know about John.
Yeah. Alexander Espinosa says, Michigan has become the Tennessee of the Big Ten, and that immediately needs to change. So it's what is Tennessee? Were they the underachiever, the perennial underachiever in the SEC or something?
Tennessee is
in the non-Manning years.
They are a walking doormat right now on the SEC. They are what Rutgers was about 4 years ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're pretty bad. They want to be good though. Like they really want to be good. They just haven't. Tennessee's going to figure it out. They have too much talent in that state. They'll figure it out. I mean, they had a decent season this year, but the SEC is, I believe the SEC is really overrated. I don't think they're as good they're very top heavy. But once you get past Florida, Georgia, Alabama, maybe Texas A&M every off year, the rest of the conference is not very good.
Okay. That's surprising because Tennessee was once a powerhouse themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe they'll figure it out, though.
Holy Reaver 97 says, don't be dramatic. Well, I don't know what that's referring to.
Maybe the Tennessee comment.
Okay. Absolutely right, Alex. What is Michigan's identity? We have none. What is the Tram good at? I don't know what that means. The pitches, do you remember back in 19? You're still selling that, then yeah, that's the problem.
That might be before a lot of those kids were born.
Well said, Alex. We all know what sells U of M, but what actually sells Michigan football at this point. Just subscribed. Thank you, Alexander Espinoza. Really liking your takes and the engagement of your subscribers. Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Ross Hickson. Michigan seems to recruit kids that don't need football. I've seen a video that said Michigan recruits doctors and lawyers, and Michigan State recruits hood type dudes. Okay, we have some class and socioeconomics going on in this take here. Well, I think you want some tough players, whether or not they're gonna go to medical school or they're gonna go to, or whether or not they're just there doing basket weaving. You need tough kids. You need to develop those kids.
And keep in mind, if that's the case, that's really sad. But when you have kids from different environments, they have the opportunity to become those doctors and lawyers if they're coming from I want to be politically correct saying this, impoverished or lesser income situations financially, like their background. So those kids that are coming from those areas, I definitely believe they deserve every opportunity to be able to go to college, be able to play a collegiate sport. And, it's such a small percentage of players that make it to the NFL, that make it to the NBA, that play professional soccer, so on and so forth. You have to do something, when you're in school. So I definitely think giving those kids opportunities, it's definitely worth it. You never know what you're going to end up with. So, perfect example, kid from Toledo, who went to Ohio State. He's running for Congress. So I think he's a congressman, in Kentucky. Something like that. You had one guy who went to Duke. He ended up working under the Obama administration. He went to Duke. Duke is one of the best schools in the country. But, he played basketball at Duke, and, he ended up working under the Obama administration. So, kids definitely deserve opportunities no matter what background they come from.
John Stoops has agreed I wouldn't attack the students. Anthony Thomas, is this the Anthony Thomas? Probably not. I don't know. I've seen some athletes that can't even read. Yeah, you always hear stories of, kids getting pushed through. Rip 846 says 5 years ago, y'all were calling him a defensive genius. Honestly, I've never seen that team up north defense that weak in my life, and I've been around a while.
Well, I'll say this. The Revenge Tour team got shredded because they couldn't figure out. So a couple things happened. Even Ohio State fans, we never knew how good Chris Olave was until that game. And all they did was run crossing routes. And you guys just didn't have a slot corner to cover him. The kid is silky smooth running his routes. He's a natural runner with the football. Nobody could have anticipated that. No, we didn't even know. It just happened. He probably had the best game of any Buckeye in the game. He had two or three touchdowns, blocked a punt. He had like nobody saw that coming, and he was a freshman. Nobody saw that coming. So that just happens sometimes. So I'm not gonna blame one particular game on. I'm not gonna take one game over the entire year. The Michigan football defense had a great year defensively. They were the number one ranked defense in the country. You don't do that being weak and soft and playing scrubs. Like they were legit. Like I knew they were legit. I had my reservations about it going into the game, but it had whatever happened, and I don't think anybody saw that coming. But I also think the defense didn't adjust either. Once it was happening, play after play after play, they were running the same play for 3 quarters, and there was just no adjustment. So that definitely was on Don Brown. But to say he's a defensive genius, I think that was fair. I definitely think that's fair.
That was a painful day to be at that Buffalo Wild Wings watching that game. That was painful. Watching Brandon Watson try to keep up with that kid. But here's the other thing. Get out of there, Facebook. But here's the other thing. I think the offense let the team down during that game. And who was calling the plays on offense? I mean, Steve Dace tried to make fun of it in the Michigan podcast. Nico Collins was winning his matchup. And I think Jim let the team down that day on the offensive side.
If he's winning, so here's the thing: if he's winning the matchup, it's the quarterback's job to get him the ball, right?
Yeah, ideally.
Okay, so if the quarterback's not getting him the ball and he's winning his matchups, that's not Jim's fault. That's
someone
that's on the play.
Someone needs to go shake Shea Patterson and say, "Look, he's winning his matchup. Keep throwing it over there."
Well,
so someone.
I would say this. So you can't blame Jim for Shea Patterson not throwing him the ball. You can blame Jim for not developing a quarterback to know to throw Nico Collins the ball. So although it's his fault, it's also not his fault. So I definitely think it's his fault because he should have had a better player or coached Shea Patterson up enough to recognize that. And whoever is looking, when Shea Patterson's going to the sideline, talking to the quarterbacks coach, etc. Jim's job is to oversee everything, but the quarterbacks coach's job in that area is to make sure that say, hey, you need to be looking more over here, and we're seeing this, etc. Look for that. And if Shea Patterson is not doing that, then that's Jim's fault for bringing Shea Patterson in there if he's not able to get the job done in that game. So it all falls back on Jim, but there's blame to be shared around. It's not specifically on Jim Harbaugh.
Well, Alex, here's the other thing, and Steve Dace jokingly pointed it out in his post-game analysis of that game. I know the logic is if we keep handing the ball off, our offensive line will eventually wear down their defense. That was the game plan. Hand off to Karan Higdon. Hand off to Karan Higdon. Hand off to Karan Higdon. And at some point,
bad plan.
You're kind of saying, dude, your NFL wide receiver is winning his matchup. Why don't you keep abusing that until they stop it? So that's where I was going with the,
I understand, but there's blame to be shared in that particular situation. Absolutely.
Okay.
I definitely think it comes down to Shea. It comes down to Jim. It comes down to the quarterback coach. It comes down to the offensive coordinator. Everybody shares the blame on that.
Okay. So I just don't think that game was 100%. I mean, the defense, I think the assumption going in was that the defense wouldn't give up 60 points, but I think the offense just didn't do its part that day as well. Yakov 22 says, if the U of M president is okay with winning, 8 to 9 games per year, then maybe that is the current goal. Not every program is all in. Can we accept U of M might not be all in? Well, Abdul Gaines said Michigan needs to get serious about football. So you need a president who's also dedicated to that as well.
Mr. Espinoza, if I may, you don't pay a coach $7 million a year to win 8 or 9 games. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. Alex Espinosa says, LOL, good point, Alex, on losing games. Losing inevitably happens at U of M. Just being a realist. Been that way since I started watching Michigan in 1987. That's why the 1997 team is so magical. It never lost.
Yeah, but again, you don't pay a coach $7 million to win 8 or 9 games.
No.
You don't.
Anthony Thomas says they just don't seem to want to play for him. Look how the Hoosiers play for Allen. Yep, there's definitely a coach.
Tom Allen is, or is it Tim Allen? No, Tim Allen's a tool guy. Tom Allen. I love watching Indiana play. They go hard for that program.
John Stoops says, "LOL, no, I wish maybe a distant bloodline." Okay, so he's not related to Bob Stoops that he knows.
Okay.
Psychedelic Curry says, "Why was it that Jim Harbaugh developed talent wonderfully at Stanford, but comes here and his best quarterback play was from Jake Rudock?"
We don't have time to break that down.
The asterisk, right? He wasn't there that long.
We don't have time to break that down, but that is the biggest facade about Jim Harbaugh developing quarterbacks. It's the biggest one. Maybe in a different, maybe later on in a different stream, I can break that down because I have a lot of evidence of that.
Okay. And then he says, also commenting on the athletes that can't read. These athletes are smart, but they put their time and effort into football rather than academics. They don't make the grades and go to Bama and OSU, etc. So that's a bit of a dig there. They don't make the grades and go to Bama and OSU, etc.
I'm sorry. When's the last time you looked at Ohio State's academics? I'm just curious. Alabama. You got me on Alabama, but not Ohio State. I think they're in the top 12 or top 15. So they're up there, buddy.
Dave Schneider says Michigan's problem is they are limited to recruiting athletes that are at least minimally literate. So we're going the academic angle here.
Okay. Let's hypothetically say that these kids can't read. Let's just, okay, fine. We'll play that game. Let's hypothetically say they can't read. Okay, cool. What does that have to do with the coaches developing them? What does that have to do with the culture fit? All those things fall back on the coaches that are on the staff. So even if they can't read, right? Like in what was it in the program where the dude says, you see that shoe, it says Adidas. Even if you're Alvin Mack and you can't read, right? You still need to be developed as a player. So none of that matters at all, especially when you have top 10 recruiting classes every year. It doesn't matter. If you have top 10 recruiting classes where kids can't read, you're still not developing them anyway. So it doesn't matter what their grades are in high school. It doesn't matter.
All right. So we're going to wind down in 9 more minutes. Yakov, Psychedelic Curry has a rebuttal. But before that, Yakov 22 says, Alex, the current president wasn't there for the original contract. He wants to pay Harbaugh and perhaps any other future head coach significantly less. I think Schlissel was there when Harbaugh got hired.
I thought he was.
I think Jim Hackett was. Yeah, Jim Hackett was the interim AD, but I think Schlissel was there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Psychedelic Curry says, not a dig on OSU academics, just more than Michigan's academics are insane. I had a friend with a 3.9 GPA, 30 on ACT, didn't get into Michigan.
That's fine. Again, so we'll play the game. We'll play the academics card, right? Let's look at the team. Okay, the next time we do a stream, we're going to look at the teams who have recruiting classes behind Michigan, and let's see what they're ranked over the last 3 years. That's what we're going to do, because I'm going to debunk all that because I just think the argument's nonsense. I guarantee you those teams won more than 6 games. I'll say that in their conference, which Michigan has not. So we're going to debunk all that.
Okay. So one last call. If anyone wants to make a donation, my Cash App is right there in the chat. Yeah, the academic angle is very we hear that one a lot regarding the maize and blue. Alexander Espinosa, Michigan should clean house and go get a young coach that is up and coming and can relate better to kids. Matt Campbell from Iowa State is a coach that does more with less.
Agreed. Completely agree. Matt Campbell's a good coach.
John Hendrick says, only problem is during Jim Tressel time, many questionable academic admits for OSU prior, etc. Not saying that way now, but then some very questionable recruits.
That is correct.
Ross Hickson says, I don't know where not being able to read fits in, but it sure is fun thinking Buckeyes read on a second grade level. Haha.
That's cool. I mean, that's. Let's see.
OSU had a better APR than U of M, second in Big Ten to Northwestern.
Thank you, Wolf. Appreciate that. It's not what you like. Perception is not reality in that scenario.
So John Hendrick says maybe Meyer turned that around.
It's possible. I mean, he had a couple questionable recruits. I definitely think on his way out, things were. I think after they won the first national championship, they were starting to really focus on the academics and in regards to university and doing a lot of investing in the school itself. So I think that was probably the beginning of that push.
I'm going to take us out with the John U. Bacon tweet once again. John tweeted, after weeks of watching the Michigan football coaching question unfold, I can say with great confidence I have absolutely no idea of what's going to happen and don't know anyone who does.
If John U. Bacon does not know, that's very scary. That's really scary. I mean, he's the go-to for Michigan everything. So he typically has very good insight on these things. And again, I'll say it again, for it to be this late, we can't have this linger going into the off season. So, or I guess I would say after bowl season, like you can't have this linger. You can't have it go on that long. And somebody on one side, Jim's side or the university side, somebody needs to make a decision because I don't think it's fair to the kids at all. Obviously they're going to come there, they're going to get a good education, but they're making their decision based on certain notions. And if those aren't going to happen, then, I feel like, keeping the kids up in the air it's just not fair to them. It's not fair to anybody.
Okay. Alex says Matt Campbell from Iowa can also recruit Ohio again from Iowa State.
Yeah, that's not happening. Good luck.
We need that.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
John Hendrick says get a better defensive coordinator now that Brown is gone. Look to the NFL maybe.
So, I mean, I'm assuming like if you're taking a defensive coordinator position at Michigan, you're probably going to be like a special teams coach or defensive backs coach in the NFL to come down and run a defense. So, but you're not getting a defensive coordinator from the NFL to come and run Michigan. I mean, that's like Michigan is a top tier mid-major program right now. That's the level that Michigan football is at. And you need somebody to come in, and I just think a clean sweep a new voice for the program, is what's best. And typically when players stop playing for their coach, you need somebody who has the completely opposite approach to things. That's kind of coaching 101. So, where Jim seems to be really laxed and quirky, you probably need somebody that's going to come in there, be hard nosed, very disciplined, no nonsense kind of guy. I don't know what that looks like for Michigan, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what goes on in this fiasco called Michigan football over the next couple of weeks.
Joseph says, bring back DJ Durkin. In his first year as defensive coordinator, they had the number 6 defense in the country. And during a 5-game stretch, they gave up only 14 points.
But it would take a lot to get to that point, because you just need a reset. And maybe DJ Durkin is that reset. Maybe he's part of the answer. But with his issues, is he even coaching right now?
Yeah, that would be a big story based upon what happened at Maryland with that kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other thing is, everyone has to remember that Brady Hoke, as much as folks wanted him out, he left Jim a lot.
Oh, he left. The cupboards were absolutely full when he left.
On both sides of the ball. So
absolutely full.
It's not like DJ Durkin came in from scratch and built that thing. Spunky 181 says Harbaugh is setting the fire to burn that U of M bridge. Harbs has that history of burning bridges at every stop.
That's a very good point, Spunky. Very good point.
All right, I'm going to power through these last couple, and then we'll stop. What's going on, guys? Go Blue. Hope it can get turned around. I love Michigan, Ohio State. I love the game. That is classic. Needs to get revived. Absolutely.
100%.
You could maybe get Matt Patricia, but you don't want that dude. Well, someone wants Josh McDaniels. Someone in my subscriber base wants Josh McDaniels. So something about those Belichick guys. Rumor has been that Penn State defensive backs coach Tim Banks getting calls to be the U of M defensive coordinator. Durkin and his issues problematic. Okay. Yeah. Alex, do you have any final words for this one?
Yes. Definitely don't want the DJ Durkin. It's unfortunate that a kid lost his life under his watch. I remember that press conference like it was yesterday, and I think he held everything. I think it took everything in him not to cry. And that's really, really unfortunate. But we'll see. Again, I think the early signing period's over. They've lost some recruits because of the things kind of being in flux at Michigan, and we'll just wait and see what happens. I just personally think, clean the slate, man. Just start over. And there's some interesting comments. I'm going to look up, exactly what's going on, what the president is saying. And I'm going to take a look and see if the current president was there when Jim got his contract. Things change, standards change. I think you can chew gum and walk at the same time. So if you want to raise your academic standards and be the standard of the Midwest, I think you can do that. And I also think you can win football games and play for national championships as well. I think you can do both. So I don't like one excuse over the other. And maybe I'm just giving Michigan too much credit in that regard, but we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. I definitely think that, to me, Don Brown getting let go is a sign that Jim is staying. So typically, when coaches get fired, the entire staff gets let go, not just one coach. So that signals to me that Jim is at least going to be there for another 2 or 3 years. And the one thing I find really, really interesting about this entire scenario is that, when Jim had those top 5 rankings, they never gave him an extension. they never gave him an extension. When coaches come in and they have good years, after like year 1 or year 2, they get an extension. Jim never got an extension, which it's kind of just interesting how this whole situation has played out. So I think he's probably going to be retained. If it was me, I would retain him, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Like I said, I think, letting a defensive coordinator go typically says that the head coach is going to remain on board at least for another couple of years, because the entire staff is not getting let go. So that's kind of what it signals to me. This whole thing is crazy to me, how it's gone. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, I think we will stop there. Like I said, I didn't plan when I was driving yesterday. I didn't plan on doing a live stream today. But hey, how could you not cover this? This is huge based upon where we thought this whole thing would go. Unless something astronomical happens overnight, I'm not doing a live stream tomorrow on Christmas Eve. So I'm going to stop this here. I better move this computer into the other room before I get in trouble. Alex, as always, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Of course, always.
Thank you for your commentary. Thank you for everyone who came and hung out in the chat. Thank you to my new subscribers. If you're watching this on the playback, please subscribe. I am within 150 of getting to the holy number of 1,000, which is
subscribe and like and share. Absolutely.
All free. Yep, all free.
All free.
So everyone, be safe out there. Enjoy your holiday, whatever that is for you. We'll see you next time. So with that, as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Go Blue, or whatever your fan base is. For Alex's team, it's Go Bucks. Hey, when does the playoff start? Is it next week or after the new year?
First.
Okay. So, yep. Hey, maybe I'll do something before the playoff starts, because I know the Ohio State fans, you guys are itching for that shot at Clemson. You guys,
man, we want it so bad. But Ryan Day, I 100% believe what Ryan Day said is that they're going to have to play their best game of the year in order to beat Clemson, and they have it. And I've said it repeatedly. They have played halves of football. They have not played a full game of football yet. So if they're able to do that, they'll have a shot.
Okay, just quickly, what do you make of what Matt Leinart and Brady Quinn said about Justin Fields' quarterback play? They were pretty skittish on. Did he have a shaky game against Northwestern or?
Absolutely, he didn't have a very good game. So I've said this before a couple times, on previous streams that we've done. You never know how pressure can affect somebody.
Yeah.
When Justin Fields came out last year, he came out with his hair on fire. You really don't know what's going on. You're going into the next season. You're either going to be the number 1 or 2 pick overall. How do you play with that pressure? And especially with COVID, things like that, like we don't know how being isolated, because remember, he is isolated from everybody else all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Except for practice. He doesn't meet with the other quarterbacks in the program. It's basically like him, Ryan Day, and the quarterbacks coach. They meet separate from everybody else.
Wow.
So we don't really know long-term, how mentally this is affecting him. He hasn't played very well this year at all. He started off strong, and it seems like he's maybe regressed, but I think for him, he's maybe thinking the game a little too much as opposed to just going out and just playing and letting the chips fall where they may. I saw in the Indiana game, and I saw it in the Northwestern game. He looks bad because I feel like he's trying to make too many plays versus just trusting his reads. That's what I think is going on with him. So if he trusts his reads and he just lets the football go, he's fine. The more he gets into his own head, he tries to, I feel like he tries to do too much as a quarterback. And I I think the Northwestern game was probably it was a really interesting game because he just led the team to a victory. You know, like like after the Indiana game, it was just, hey, you're struggling. We're gonna make simple plays. We're gonna simplify everything for you. Just do enough for us to win the football game and trust your teammates. And in order to beat Clemson, he's going to have to do a complete 180 of the past 4 games. And keep in mind, I know a lot of people don't talk about this, but Trevor Lawrence really struggled last year. And then he hit a stride at the end of the year. Justin Fields is only 6 games in. I don't think people remember Trevor Lawrence was throwing a lot of picks last year. And when they almost got beat by North Carolina, that was when he turned it around. But Trevor Lawrence also has a lot more reps than Justin Fields does as well. So I don't necessarily like the comparison in that regard. But we'll see what happens. I hope he turns it around. You know, I think the defense has shown up more than they have in the past 3 weeks. And keep in mind, we only have a 6-game sample, so we don't even know. We have like a third or almost half of we played half of the games that other teams have, where they know what they can do, what players can and can't do on the field, what players will show up and not show on the field. They just know so much more about their team at 12 games versus our 6 games. So we're definitely fighting an uphill battle in that regard. I'm going to say 30, 35, 31, Ohio State.
Okay. But I'll agree with Alex. I know they definitely want the rematch and they want the game. They wanted this matchup, so they have something to prove.
Yeah, especially due to the fact that Dabo said they're 11th best team in the country. If that does a lot of fire under you, I don't know what does.
Yeah, he's giving you guys a lot of chalkboard material.
A lot of bulletin board material. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right, everyone. We'll stop it there. This comment came in as well. Doodoo John Brown is gone, and everyone, despite the struggles, I mean, there's so much happening in that locker room that we don't see and we don't know. And I want to thank Don for his service. I mean, he did do some good things. He was able to do some good things when he was here, but you know, there's just, I think systemically we've talked about this here. There are just some things systemically with that whole thing that's making it hard for any assistant to succeed. So.
And I just want to point out before we go, Joe Milton is still on the team.
Oh yeah,
he's still on the team.
That's a whole different discussion. Gideon, he's I think he wants us to be good so the game is competitive, but he's a Buckeye fan, so
absolutely not.
All right, everyone. I have to run out and get some things, so we'll
will set my kids on fire before I root for Michigan. Never. But I do respect the program.
All right. Well, Alex, appreciate it as always. Everyone, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Be safe out there. Happy holidays.